Preparing for disaster, something that's on all of our minds after Sandy. As many as 20,000 homes damaged in New York City alone. So when we talk about preparing for a disaster, you also have to think about rebuilding. And unfortunately, that also means thinking about those schemers and those scams out there, because home improvement scams are now one of the top 5 fastest growing complaints among American consumers. And after something like a hurricane, a flood, and fire, homeowners are desperately looking for help and are most vulnerable to scams. We want to know how to avoid that situation, so we've brought in home repair fraud prevention expert Faye Howard with me here in studio. Faye, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start here, because one of the tips you're talking about is what we do beforehand, right? Afterwards, we're all desperate, but beforehand, you say, know your insurance policy, take pictures, and take inventory of your possessions. Let's start with knowing your insurance policy.
Well, let me start and say there are a lot of really good contractors out there. There are a lot of bad guys too, but there are a lot of good contractors. And what we do is we not only help homeowners avoid becoming victims of scams, but we also cut down on the miscommunication between them and a legitimate contractor.
Okay, so there's good guys and gals and bad guys and gals.
Absolutely.
But when you are a victim, like these folks are saying, the bad ones are going to come flocking because they know how desperate people are.
Yes, of course. So it's so important to make sure you get in touch with your insurance company, that you register with FEMA, obviously, when it's a federal disaster. But you want to make sure that you have an inventory of what's actually in your home. So if something happens...
How detailed?
Very detailed, very detailed. Certainly those things that are that you have that are very valuable. You can take a video camera and go around your home and just speak into the camera and talk about the different items that you purchased, you know, how much it cost, when you bought it, those kinds of things. It's always a good idea, and our heart goes out to those from Hurricane Sandy, but it's also a good idea to have a relationship with a contractor before you need one. So you take the time to vet them and check them out to make sure that you have somebody in your corner.
That's something I wouldn't have thought of. I wouldn't have thought of it. All right, let's talk about after the disaster now. Okay. Choosing a contractor, local, licensed by the state, registered with the city. So where do you go to find these folks who are licensed, who are registered, who are legitimate? Well,
you want to make sure that you, when you're dealing with the contractor, you're going to vet him. That's the most important thing, and you don't want to be rushed, because it's so important to take your time. There's a lot of information that you need to make sure that you're clear on before you're dealing with these contractors. You can find contractors. A lot of times most times you want to deal with someone locally. Not only because if something goes wrong, they're close enough to come and repair it, but you really want to put the money back into your own community. That's what we think. But another place is, a lot of times in disasters, there may be so many jobs that need to be done and not enough contractors. So a lot of good contractors come from out of town. So those contractors should be registered with your city or county, and you can call your building and zoning department to confirm if a contractor has registered with your city or county.
Important stuff, because you've been through enough. You've been through a disaster. You don't want to get hit again by some sort of a scam.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Faye.
You're welcome.
Great to see you.